It is of course not every week that we take a look at a Scale 200 aircraft model, far from it, but every now and then I do like to dive in a little bit into Scale 200 and see what's going on here. And especially today, as we have one of my favorite aircraft types in front of us. And with that, hello and welcome to a new episode of Review, where we today will take a closer look at a BAe 146-200 of Neptune Aviation Services. And what Herpa can't do in Scale 500, they apparently can in Scale 200, because here at the front of the box we don't just have the Neptune Aviation Services branding, but also an image of the aircraft in real life. That image we can then also find on the backside of the box. And again, here Herpa apparently is capable of doing what they are incapable of doing in Scale 500. Very strange. So apart from the lovely image, we can then also see that this is a limited edition. And here she is, the BAe 146-200 or Avro 85. It's the same aircraft type but with different names, and I usually revert back to Avro 85 of Neptune Aviation Services. And what might that be, you perhaps are asking yourself? I did most certainly when I got this aircraft model. Well, it is an aerial firefighting company based out of Missoula, Montana, so the United States. They're providing aerial support and firefighting services in the United States, Canada, Chile, and actually throughout the world. And now we have a Scale 200 aircraft model of it, so let's take a closer look at it. Starting off with the vertical stabilizer, where we have the lovely Neptune Aviation color scheme, and on top of that, the writing of 01. And that color scheme is actually then also continued on the horizontal stabilizer that is mounted on top of the vertical stabilizer. On the fuselage, we then have the full registration code of the aircraft, and next to that, maybe a little bit unusual, normally we would perhaps find the flag of the USA here, but in this case we get the state flag of Montana. Now, on the side of the BAe 146, we of course then have the APU exhaust, and at the tail we then have, here indicated with the print, that's actually the speed brake. So this deploys when the aircraft has landed, basically folding out to the side and then acting as a speed brake. If we then move on to the front of the aircraft, we can see quite a few details here, starting off of course with the Neptune Aviation Services branding. We do also then find the flag of the United States of America between the cabin door and the cockpit windows. We have the aircraft type specification, some more little writing here that I couldn't quite identify what that is, but then of course also a few static ports, some petro tubes, stuff like that. Always lovely to see on an aircraft model. Then of course we have this blacked out area just underneath the cockpit windows. That's to minimize reflections as far as I know. And then of course we have the cockpit windows with the window wipers printed on as well. And again here a few ports on the side. So that's quite lovely. Then we have the engine nacelles. They have been kept in all white, just as most of the fuselage, but we do have the silver leading edge, and we do actually also have a few safety markings printed on. And I really do like how the physical detailing of these engines looks. I think they look fantastic, in my opinion at least. Also, when we look into the engines from the front, we can very nicely see the engine fan blades. From the engines, we can move on to the wings, which of course on the Avro 85 are mounted on top of the fuselage. And here again, we find in the middle the writing of 01. We have the Neptune branding. We have the writing of fire. We have basically all the aeronautical elements of the wing that you would see on the BAe, so that's quite lovely. Also, the underside has some lovely bit of physical detailing, and here again we find the writing of fire. Also, a highlight that I really like is that we actually do have the landing lights printed on here at the top of the fuselage. When we look at the landing gear, that is made entirely out of metal, except of course for the wheels, which are made out of plastic. And I think overall we have a fairly decent amount of detailing with, for example, wheel caps. And for those who are interested in it, we do also have the feature of the landing gear being rolling, or the wheels being rolling. So for those who really do enjoy this feature, well, this model does have it. So in form of physical detailing, the model does offer quite a bit, but we don't really have printed details, strictly speaking, on the landing gear itself, but we do find related prints to the landing gear on the belly of the aircraft here at the front. Then we have some Neptune branding and the, I guess, internal registration. We find a bit more printed details here around the main landing gear. And then we find what I think Herpa has done a really good job with, physical antennas here on the belly of the aircraft, but we do also find an antenna here on top of the fuselage. And as I say, I think Herpa has done a really good job in shaping those antennas quite nicely. And then, last but not least, we do also have the doors to the cargo compartments printed on this aircraft model here at the back of the fuselage and here at the front. So there we have it, the BAe 146-200 in the livery of Neptune Aviation Services from Herpa Wings in scale 1 to 200. And what can we say about this aircraft model? Well, where to start? I mean, I could start by saying that I'm actually quite happy with this aircraft model. A positive thing to mention here is the fact that it is made entirely out of metal. This is unfortunately something that needs to be mentioned with Herpa Wings scale 200 models because it's not always the case. I think the overall amount of printed details and especially the physical detailing of the aircraft is really perfectly fine, at least for me. In a scale 200 version of the Avro 85, I think Herpa isn't doing much wrong. But it wouldn't be a Herpa model if there wouldn't be at least one thing that is a bit confusing, and that is the fact that this aircraft model does not come with a stand, and there is even no possibility to add the aircraft to a stand if you had bought it separately. And for a scale 200 aircraft model, that is very unusual. Now, maybe it's because of the placement of the landing gear and they couldn't quite work it out how to balance the aircraft model, but I mean, we have seen other aircraft with similar issues and still having stands. So yeah, this is for me a bit confusing. For me, this is exactly what I would like Herpa to do with scale 500 aircraft models, but we get it here in scale 200. So yeah, that is kind of my conclusion, I guess, that if this had been a scale 500 model, the way Herpa has done this aircraft model with the amount of details and leaving away the stupid stand and the lovely box design, then I would have been over the moon. For a scale 200 model, I mean, it's still a great model, but I do think it is a bit strange to leave away the stand and even the possibility of placing the aircraft model on a stand. But what do you think about having a scale 200 model that you can't place on a stand? Is it hit or miss? Let me know in the comment section below. And with that, we have reached the end of today's episode. If you have enjoyed this video, then feel free to leave a like. If you're new around here, why not hit subscribe? With that, thanks so much for watching. Hope to see you soon again. I'm checking out, and bye.